As a Man Thinketh Full Summary and Life-Changing Lessons by James Allen. You are today where your thoughts have brought you. You will be tomorrow where your thoughts take you. These are not just words. They are a mirror to your life. Every success, every failure, every joy, and every pain begins with one thing: your thoughts. Welcome to As a Man Thinketh, a timeless masterpiece by James Allen, written over a century ago, yet more relevant today than ever before. Stay till the end, because once you truly understand the power of your thoughts, your entire life can transform. Before we begin, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more life-changing book summaries. There was once a man named Armin who lived an ordinary life in a small, dusty town. Every morning he woke up with the same heavy sigh, looked into the cracked mirror in his room and whispered, "Maybe tomorrow will be better." But tomorrow always looked the same, because nothing inside him ever changed. He blamed the world for his failures, cursed his luck, and wondered why happiness seemed to visit everyone except him. He worked hard but without passion, dreamed but without faith, and moved through life as though something invisible was holding him down. He never realized that the invisible thing was his own thinking. One quiet night, unable to sleep, Armin sat alone on his balcony under a pale moon. The town was silent, but his mind was loud with worry and regret. He thought about every wrong turn, every disappointment, every missed chance. "Why does life always treat me this way?" he whispered into the dark. For a long moment, there was only the sound of the wind. Then, from somewhere deep in his memory, a line from an old book floated back to him. "A man is literally what he thinks. His character is the complete sum of all his thoughts." He had read those words years ago and forgotten them, but now, in the stillness, they seemed to speak directly to him. He began to wonder, could it really be that simple? Could the thoughts inside his mind be shaping the world around him? He looked toward the small patch of soil behind his house, a garden he had once tried to keep alive. It was now overgrown with weeds. In that moment he understood. His mind was that garden, and the weeds were his doubts, his fears, his constant complaints. He had planted them without realizing, and they had taken over everything. That night, as the stars hung above him, Armin made a quiet promise. He would begin again. He would change his thoughts, even if it took his entire life. Because if his thoughts had the power to destroy, they also had the power to rebuild. The next morning, for the first time in years, he rose before the sun. The world outside was still asleep, but something inside him was awake. He stood before the mirror and instead of saying, "Maybe tomorrow will be better," he said softly, "Today, I will be better." That single thought, small and simple, carried more power than he could imagine. Throughout the day, he caught himself thinking negatively and replaced every complaint with a choice. When his mind said, "I can't," he answered, "I will." When fear whispered, "What if you fail?" he replied, "Then I'll learn." Slowly, like a new seed taking root, those tiny changes began to grow. Weeks passed. Armin started noticing that life responded differently to him. He smiled more. He worked with patience. He spoke with calm instead of anger. The people around him began to change, too. His boss trusted him more, his friends respected him, and opportunities seemed to appear where none existed before. For years he had chased luck, not realizing that luck follows the mind that believes. He remembered another line from the same book: "Men do not attract that which they want, but that which they are." And so, he stopped trying to get things and focused instead on becoming someone worth having them. But change is never easy. Some nights, when things went wrong, the old voices returned. They told him he was wasting his time, that nothing really changes, that he would always be the same man he was before. Once, after losing an important client, he sat at his desk with his head in his hands, ready to give up. Then he remembered something. Circumstance does not make the man, it reveals him to himself. He realized that failure wasn't the end, it was a mirror. It showed him how strong his new beliefs really were. And so, instead of breaking down, he got up, breathed deeply, and tried again. The next day, he found another client, a better one, and from that moment he learned that calmness is not weakness. It is power. Months turned into years. Armin's business grew, but more importantly, his peace grew. He no longer feared tomorrow. He had learned that peace was not the absence of problems but the mastery of thought. People came to him for advice, expecting him to reveal some secret strategy. But he always smiled and said, "There's no secret. I just learned to master the only thing I can truly control, my own mind." He explained that every thought is a seed. If you plant bitterness, you will harvest pain. If you plant gratitude, you will harvest joy. The mind is like a garden. It will grow whatever you plant. The choice always is yours. He began helping others see what he had discovered. Young people who felt lost would visit him. He would sit with them in his small garden, now green and blooming, and tell them stories of how his thoughts had shaped his destiny. "You can't stop negative thoughts from appearing," he'd say, "but you can stop feeding them. You can stop watering the weeds." His words began to spread, and many started to change their lives the same way he had changed his. The small town that once saw him as a failure now looked to him as a teacher, a quiet reminder that greatness begins within. One evening, long after the sun had gone down, Armin sat in that same garden with a cup of tea in his hands. The moonlight shone on the flowers, and the breeze carried the scent of jasmine. He thought back to the night when he first decided to change. Everything was different now: his home, his work, his friends, but most of all, his mind. He realized that the world hadn't changed for him. He had changed for the world. The same people, the same town, the same life, but a different thinker. That was the real miracle. He smiled, feeling a calmness he had never known before. He thought of the younger version of himself, the man who had once stood in front of the mirror, whispering, "Maybe tomorrow will be better." He wished he could reach back through time and tell that man, "It was never about tomorrow. It was always about today, the thoughts you choose right now." Because that was the truth hidden inside the words of "As a Man Thinketh," that every thought we hold is a brushstroke on the canvas of our destiny. A mind filled with fear paints a life of struggle. A mind filled with gratitude paints a life of beauty. We all hold the brush. We are all the artists of our own lives. As the night grew quiet, Armin looked up at the stars and felt a deep peace wash over him. He understood now what James Allen had meant when he wrote, "You are today where your thoughts have brought you. You will be tomorrow where your thoughts take you." He had lived those words. He had become proof that they were true. He realized that he no longer needed to chase happiness. It lived within him. He had found it the moment he learned to think clearly, calmly, and with purpose. His life was no longer a series of accidents. It was a reflection of conscious thought. The garden rustled softly in the wind, and Armin closed his eyes, feeling the power of that truth one last time. Everything begins and ends in the mind. The world outside is just a mirror reflecting what lives inside. When the thoughts are strong, focused, and kind, the reflection becomes beautiful. When they are fearful or angry, the reflection becomes distorted. Life, after all, is not what happens to us. It is what we think about what happens to us. So, whoever you are, wherever you are, remember this. The power to change your world lies within your own thoughts. Don't wait for luck or destiny. Don't wait for tomorrow. Begin today. Guard your mind. Nurture it. Fill it with purpose and gratitude. Because once you change your thoughts, the entire universe begins to change with you. That is the timeless message of As a Man Thinketh, the quiet truth that built a new life for Armin, and that can build one for you too. Change your thoughts, and you'll change your world. Like, share, and subscribe to ThinkShift for more life-changing stories.